Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking all about my goals and specific plans for this upcoming year of 2023-2024 homeschool year. And I love goals. I love talking about them. I feel like they're really important, especially as you're setting the stage for making decisions for the upcoming year. Like, I set goals well before I start making decisions on curriculum and things like that, because I feel like it makes such a difference. It really helps me make decisions if I think through some of these things. And my goals have been different for every year because my kids have been different, my homeschool has been different, all sorts of things. And so I have some specific goals that I want to share with you guys today, and I hope it encourages you and maybe inspires you to think about some of these things for your own homeschool. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. So like I said, we're going to be chatting about my goals for 2023-2024, and I have 5 of them to share with you. Some are a bit more specific than others, and some are a little more specific to my individual kids, and I'll share all of that because I think kind of bigger, broader goals as well as very specific goals are both very useful. And so when I am thinking about my upcoming year, I always do start with my past year, and there were a few things that came out of that year that helped me set this upcoming year's goals. So I guess I would say like 2 lessons in particular I learned from last year. And the first is to teach for skills. I really learned this last year, and what I mean by this is I tend to be a rule follower. I like the security of curriculum. I like knowing that they've got it covered. But what I've learned this year is I don't have to hold so tightly to that. I think it just comes out of many years of homeschooling. I'm going on my 5th year homeschooling, and I feel like I have learned a lot from those years. And last year it really was that I need to think about the skills that my kids are building more so than following a scope and sequence of a curriculum and hoping that the curriculum developer has thought about all these things. Instead, I can just think about them myself and be like, okay, well, my son has mastered reading. He's doing really well with that. What's the next skill he needs to build? And I can think about that and research that and learn about education and things like that. And then think maybe we really need to start transitioning into early composition and handling kind of those spelling, grammar, mechanics, areas of language arts. I'm just kind of talking language arts right now, but you get what I mean. So it was just the ability to teach to skills instead of follow a curriculum blindly, I guess. And so that was a big lesson, as well as I feel like another lesson I learned this past year was to really partner with my kids in writing, to walk alongside them. And I saw such fruit in that. I feel like I did not know what I was expecting or anticipating with teaching early composition, and I think I had a lot of room to grow. And I made a lot of videos about this as I was researching and brainstorming, and it kind of was on my mind last year. And I feel like what I had the most success with and where I saw the most delight in my kids is when I helped them and really honored who they were. So those were the things I learned, and those 2 things have affected how I am looking at this upcoming year and setting goals. So let me just jump into the goals section. So my first goal for this upcoming year is fun and celebration. Okay, so really what brought me here was just the realization that I am a box checker. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not upset with the fact that I can be a little type A in those things. But what I don't like is sometimes when I do want to check all the boxes, I focus more on getting through things, getting through my curriculum, and make sure we're reading all the books, make sure we're doing all the math problems. And I will focus so much on that that I'm exhausted by the end of the day, I'm exhausted by the end of the week, and then I don't get a chance to do any of that fun stuff. And so for me, I'm trying to plan in my fun. I've been trying to do that this summer. I've been sharing a bit about that in my kind of summer prep series. I'm trying to plan that, not too extensively because that could be overwhelming, but just to plan that a bit, and then to give myself some kind of touchstones in my schedule. Like, for instance, adding like a poetry tea time. And I'm not going to stress out about making cookies. I'll probably just buy some. And then I'll have some tea or lemonade and put out some candles and just make it more fun for my kids. Because the thing is, we used to do what we called tea time, treat time. I think it was left over from the gentle and classical preschool program. And my daughter still talks about tea time, tree time. And I was terrible at doing it. I probably did it a handful of times. And she really wants to keep doing it. So that tells me she really likes it and it's really easy. So I can bring in kind of that fun, but also celebration. So I feel like I started to do this a little bit more at the end of last year, like celebrating the end of our school year, celebrating just all the things, celebrating finishing different curriculum. And what I'm going to do this year is I want to link it to kind of a monthly celebration. Like link it maybe to our read alouds, depending on how I bring in some Brave Writer darts and things like that into our schedule. I might be doing more like book parties. And the idea there is just like decorate. My kids love to decorate. Have some food, maybe watch a movie, just like do something really fun and celebratory instead of just be so serious all the time about making sure I get it all done. So that's my goal. How this is going to go is still up in the air, and I'm okay with that. I don't need it to like be perfectly planned out, but I want to strive for that, and I want to make myself little reminders in like my monthly updates to plan for those things, to not get so tired or overwhelmed that I can't bring in fun and celebration. The next goal I have, I put water the grass. So what I mean by that is the idea that the grass is not always greener. The next new and shiny curriculum is not always the thing that's going to fix whatever bump is in the road, right? We all know that, and we all push against that. And I have made curriculum switches along the way, and I feel like most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's been really good. Like I got to a place where it was smarter to switch like math curriculum or whatever than to push through. And so for me, switching curriculum is not like the worst thing ever, but I think it's important to use what I have. So that's kind of what this goal is the idea of using the curriculum I have, and especially in light of my lesson from last year where I'm thinking about teaching to the skill and not to the curriculum. That helps me because it's like, okay, well, I do have all these wonderful resources, amazing resources. Like Sonlight alone has more than I could ever use. And so it's figuring out what works really well for us and really using that, and then being okay if there's some aspects that I don't want to use of it. But it's just using what I have, like watering that grass. Instead of saying the grass is greener over there, it's to say I have this in front of me and it's good and wonderful, and how can I use it? And so I'm not saying that I want to be very black and white and only use what I have, but I want to use it first, to try and tweak what's in front of me first before needing to switch away from it, or to add something to what I currently have to enliven it, to maybe make it a little richer, or to take something a little bit away so I can add something. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's a bit of a puzzle, but to give myself the ability to do that, to not, again, trust so heavily in a curriculum and a curriculum designer that I get stuck there, to use the curriculum as a tool. I know we all say that, or we all hear that advice, but it is not the easiest to do. And so that's why it's a goal. It's my second goal, is to really use the curriculum I have and treat it like a tool, not like it's in charge, but I'm in charge. So kind of classic advice there. So that's my second goal. So lots of fun and celebration, as well as using what I have, because I really am excited for the resources I have. And the next goal is more of a personal goal. It's for me. My goal is to be available, to have more white space, to choose my kids over other things that are taking up my time and distracting me. I had to go get my phone because I wanted to show you what I have as my home screen on my phone. And it's a C.S. Lewis quote, and it's, "Children are not a distraction from more important work. They are the most important work." And I feel like in just our distracted day and age, it's hard to remember that. And I have other hobbies and fun things that give me like a creative outlet, like YouTube. This is a creative outlet to me, but it's not more important than my kids. And it's not more important than my homeschool. And so as I'm bringing on my kindergartners, I'm adding 2 kids to my homeschool to make 4 kids total. I'm holding it loosely. If I need to pause YouTube, I will, because this is a goal of mine, is to be present for my kids, to allow myself to have more white space, to allow myself to just be able to have those discussions, to stop and have the discussions, whether it be about my kids and their friends and their personal lives, or whether it be about what we're reading in history or a read aloud that is kind of a harder idea. Is I want to not feel like I'm on a schedule, not feel like I need to get to something else, I need to edit a video, or I need to go meal prep or whatever, but to just give myself a little bit of white space and bandwidth to be present for my kids and to really be able to have those rich discussions and just like deep heart connections. That's really what I want. That's what I love about homeschooling. That's one of my big reasons why is I want a strong relationship with my kids. I want to be the one, as well as my husband, to be their biggest influence, to speak into their lives the most. And in order to do that, I need to be present. I need to choose them over some of the other distracting things that I am distracted by. So that's a goal for me. So those three are kind of bigger, broader goals, some for just how I homeschool, others for how I manage myself. But now to some academic goals. So academically, so this is a question I have is, what support does this child need? As well as like, where are they developmentally in these different subjects? So it's really just to be aware of their needs. And I have a couple different subject areas that I'm thinking about when in terms of like my big kids. So in terms of my big kids, it's mostly kind of language arts. I feel like math, they're doing well. They're just kind of progressing. Saxon is progressing with them. And if that changes, that will change kind of in my goals. But going into the new year, and that is to think about things like spelling. So I've shared, especially since last year was a year where I was kind of, my son was struggling a bit with spelling. I was going back and forth with different curriculum. And what I have kind of landed on is that spelling, as well as other mechanics like punctuation and things, is second tier in importance when you're talking language arts. First tier is things like critical thinking and like their original writing voice, if you will. Like, what do they want to share is more important to me than can they spell the word because. Like, I'm less interested in that. I think that will come, and we are doing a really solid program, Logic of English Essentials, to help with those spelling rules. But it matters how I emphasize things. If I emphasize the spelling is so important, then he'll fixate on that. And I found that since I've released that a lot, he has just exploded in the amount of stuff that he has wanted to write. He's writing on his own. Honestly, half of it I can't even read because of his spelling. But I don't care because I care more about what he thinks and to know that he is not so scared of doing it wrong, if that makes sense. So spelling, treating spelling and other mechanics as kind of second tier, and writing voice, original thought as more primary, especially in these years. And there's some practical things I can do with this. Like I said, there's Logic of English spelling rules that I will be using, but then I also have things like copywork and such that I can be making notes to myself as to like some of the words that my kids are struggling with, and then I can bring them into the copywork, or I can adjust the copywork in a way that brings in those words or brings in those mechanics that they're struggling with. So I just am wanting, my goal is that I want to be more engaged in that, like as opposed to just waiting for like, well, what should I talk about for this copywork passage? It should be more like, I can talk about what the curriculum says, but I'm also going to talk about this and this because I know that they need help with that. So it's me taking ownership. That's really the best word for it. It's ownership of the fact that I can pay enough attention. I can write notes to myself at the end of the week, and I can adjust what the upcoming week looks like based on exactly what my kids need. So that's my hopes. That's a goal of mine in that specific academic subject. And then the other one is like early composition for my big kids. And I have a lot of tools here, and I'm kind of still working through exactly how I'm going to do it. I have Sonlight Language Arts, which I really do like their creative expression assignments, as well as the diamond notes, but I'm also getting more into Brave Writer concepts. I picked up Growing Brave Writers. That's the kind of the manual for original thought, because that was the part that I really wanted to help my kids with, is their ability to kind of free write and get their words out, get their words on the page and things like that. And how can I teach them that? How can I encourage those things? And I feel like that program is very helpful. And then I did pick up some other products from Brave Writers. So kind of a mixture of all of that is kind of where I'm wanting to land this upcoming year. And I'll keep you updated on that, obviously. I mean, so really I do want to just kind of teach like writer's craft, as well as really honoring their inner writer and all of that. So this is a bit of a looser goal, academically speaking, but those are for my kind of big kids. But then I do have goal 5 is what I called it for individual kids, things that I'm thinking about just for them. So like my 4th grader, my 9.5-year-old son, my goal for him for this year is more working towards independence. Now, I don't need him to be like, you must be independent. I want to still be with him, but he is showing signs that he desires that. So we're practicing ways to have him have a list of things he can work on. He can get up right away and just kind of tick through some things. We're moving to Nicole, the math lady, I think, or my math assistant. I'm still going to kind of do a comparison of that and see how that goes for him. I'm holding it loosely. If it doesn't go well, we'll pull it back and I'll teach him. I'm okay with that, but it's a good thing to try, and especially since I'm bringing on the twins. I would like that. I might need that, but we'll see. So that's kind of the goal for him. And then my third grader. My goal for her is to not compare her to her brother. They're 16 months apart, and she is a little more naturally gifted in math, but she also struggles with a bit of like perfectionism, and it shuts her down. And so to just be really honoring of who she is in particular, and not that she's like her brother, and just kind of do some things to really support her. Like, for instance, I think I'm going to start her with Nicole, the math lady, but I might like do the lesson with her before I start with the twins on their kindergarten work, just to kind of give her that support, because she gets a little unfocused. It's harder for her to focus. My older son is a little bit more focused. He always has been. It's his personality. She's not. And so instead of being upset that she's not like that and wishing she would just kind of sit there and do it, is to honor who she is and maybe sit beside her or help her out in ways that will help her succeed. So that's really where she's at. And so like my goals for her are just a little bit more broad in that sense, but it's also like knowing where she is and kind of that writing process as well. She really still needs me to transcribe for her, or she did at the end of the year last year. She wasn't ready to take the pencil. She wasn't ready to kind of do it herself, as opposed to my older son, who just really, there was a point where it kind of clicked and he wanted to take it. And so I'm going to kind of feel her out and see where she's at. And if she's still in that she needs me to transcribe it, I'll do that, and we'll figure out how to adjust some of the writing stuff, if that makes sense. So that's my daughter. And then it comes to my kindergartners. Oh my gosh, they'll be 5.5. And really for them, my goal is to hold it loosely. They're 5.5. None of my kids have started reading at 5.5. Maybe these two will. I have no idea. I just know that it took a while with my big kids, and it was the hardest for me with my oldest. And then with my daughter, I did a much better job of just taking a break. We took 6 months off and revisited reading, and she was more ready. Things like that. So I'm ready to do that with my twins if I need to. We have a program because I like having curriculum, but if we need to back off, we will, because that's just who they are. And then I need to be able to treat them as individual people, not as the twins or the boys. I don't want any competition with them, so I'm watching that. That's a goal of mine, to watch them on that, but really hold their academic year of kindergarten very loosely and let them play with a big P-L-A-Y, play. That is the plan. It's just to give them lots of opportunities to, you know, play with Play-Doh and make their letters or whatever it is, just to not hurry them up. I'm not really needing them to hurry up. I just want to give them the tools in case they're ready. But if they're not, we wait. That's where I'm at. So goal-wise, when it comes to kind of my individual kids, those are the things that are forefront, which helps me midway through the year as like things get complicated or I get overwhelmed, to remember that these were kinds of my touch points for my kids, and we'll see how that works out. But yeah, that might have been a little kind of all over the place, but to me those goals make a lot of sense. To have the big goal of bring fun and celebration, a big goal of use the curriculum I have but don't have to use it exactly how it's lined out, being more present with my kids, that's my personal goal, and then to focus on some of these language arts things and their individual goals. And so I hope this was helpful. I don't know if any of you do this, but I have found when I am cognizant to set out goals at the beginning of the year, it helps me throughout the rest of the year. So I'll go write these on kind of their course of study or in their individual page I have for their Notion in my note-taking app on my computer. I'll go write all this stuff down because it will help me later on in the year as we're getting started. But that's my plan for this year. I have really high hopes for this year. I feel like I've grown a lot. My kids have grown a lot. We have a lot of potential. But you never know. I mean, I've learned that also, that you never know what's coming in the next 9 months or so. So anyway, I hope this was fun, interesting. Let me know down below, do you guys set goals? If you do, let me know some of them. I would love to hear. I love just kind of hearing where you guys are at as well. So anyway, that's what I have. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you guys in the next homeschool video. All right, guys, take care.